Joining me on today's podcast is model and athlete Kori Sampson, a good friend of mine. Now, Kori is facing his biggest challenge yet, running the entire circumference of Ibiza. That's over 250 kilometers to cover at the 48-hour window he's given himself. The meaning behind this challenge is incredibly powerful. Now living a new life under sobriety, he's returning to the island under very different circumstances to his previous trips. He's on a journey to change his narrative and inspire others and show them what's possible. It's never too late to make changes to yourself to ensure a happier life. This episode highlights the importance of self-belief, discipline, timing, and the difference an environment can make to your development in life. Guys, I'm incredibly proud to say that my first book, Fortune Favours the Brave, published by Penguin, is now in stores to purchase, or you can order your copy online. The book consists of 76 short lessons on finding strength in vulnerability. Adversity is something you will inevitably face in life. I wrote this book to share and showcase how to process that and what can come from it. Adversity is something we wish would never happen to us, but it does. I want you to understand though that it can inspire you to achieve incredible things, not just for yourself, but for others too. Everyone on this earth is born amazing at something. It is just a case of finding out what that is. Life is incredibly short and valuable, so make it count. You may find that you don't believe in your ability or fearful to test yourself. By the end of this book, I believe you will. To get yourself a copy now, it can be purchased at Waterstones, Amazon, or by simply clicking the link on my Instagram bio, Joshua_Patterson_JP now.
Kori, how are we doing, brother?
Good, mate. How are you?
Busy? I'm good. I am, man. I'm great. And I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because you got something absolutely monumental coming up right now. And obviously I've been following your journey for a number of years, you know, from the first time we met, I remember in the gym. And it's just been amazing just seeing your journey unfold and how quickly you've transitioned, I would say, into becoming a runner and just the things that you have achieved within such a kind of a condensed period of time.
When we met was in the gym, wasn't it? 2 years ago in September. Well, leading up to that, because that's when I did London Marathon the first time. And I had pretty much ran like 20K or something. I did a half marathon when I was like 16, 17, but at that point, like after lockdown, I'd ran like 20K. And I was like, my friend Josh put us in touch kind of about advice for running a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just come back from UTMB and I know that's one of the major races you had done. But again, just like the period of time you've given yourself sometimes from sort of like race to race, that in itself, like how you transitioned, I think is incredibly impressive. I mean, I've been to UTMB before. I did it a couple of years ago with Strava and, you know, just running a small part of it myself, I kind of got a feel for like,
Yeah, Chamonix.
The volume of running is just next level, but just the terrain itself is just so unforgiving. And I think for you to have taken it on, you did what, 42K? I mean, that's impressive.
And I didn't take poles with me. And it was like 2,500 meters elevation. And we was on this climb. And I was just like, all these guys just like flying past the poles. I'm like dying, like, this is going to be hard. But I actually loved it. And I'd never really ran a fast downhill. So you're in this like conveyor belt of people racing. And I'm like 30K in, like running down these downhills, like technical downhills, like skidding left and right, people using poles. I'm just like pinging it down and thinking, God, this could go wrong. Mate, I come like 200th in that race, I think.
Out of how many?
Like a couple thousand.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
5-hour marathon maybe, I think.
Without pot, you know, I would have rated you so much if you'd have just gone into the forest and just forged a couple of like branches.
just got through it. Mate, do you know what I had? I had a 360 Insta camera in one hand, which was even worse because I had a pole, and I thought at one point I was like, maybe I could use it as a pole, and it just like pops back in. Right. But yeah, it was crazy. And then I ended up. That's kind of what led me into doing what I'm doing now. And I actually, mutually know Amy as well. She did the race, and she put me in touch with Ultra X people, and then that's when I did Tanzania. even then, I bought the poles on the way to the airport. I literally went to like Kensington High Street because I didn't have poles yet. And I was like, I'm going to need poles. It's 220 kilometers and like 5,000 meters elevation. And I was like, I better get some poles. And I was like in 3 different shops trying to find the best ones. There was like one pair of like actual running ones, like Lecky ones.
UTMB, for those of you that don't know, I mean, it's in Chamonix. Mont Blanc is probably what it's best known for. I mean, the elevation is something that you have never experienced before.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the UK, don't get me wrong, like obviously with the 3 peaks and stuff, we have some challenges, but I've never experienced anything like it. And I mean, to go from just flat terrain and running at speeds to then throwing yourself into something like that, like the body has to completely readjust itself.
There's like 2 parts to it. And I think one of them was just being a bit naive but also just taking like an amazing opportunity, right? But I actually heard about UTMB through, there's a charity that I did a little bit of work with JD in Nike like a while ago, about 3 years ago, or 2 years ago now. And they had this thing where they were taking these kids out there from inner cities it's called the Alpine Run Project. Youth Beyond Borders, and they were taking kids out there to run like one of the shorter distances. And I was talking to them about maybe joining in whatever, which it didn't work out in the end, but I got the opportunity to go because I almost like manifested it because we started talking about it and I was looking into it. And then the PR team reached out to me to go out there. So it was just an amazing opportunity. But at the same time, going from what I did to that, for the whole period in between, I'd obviously built up the distance running wise, but then I was in like an altitude chamber like a couple of days a week. I was doing like mountain climbing, like Stairmaster for it. I was doing everything I could to prepare to get through it within reason, without the experience, but just from talking to people and like learning myself. So I kind of like put everything into it still, but yeah, it was just an opportunity. And I was a bit like, I not underestimated it. I knew it'd be really hard. I actually wanted to do the OCC. I wanted to do the 55 and they told me I had to qualify for it. So I couldn't, which I'll probably do maybe next year. Maybe I'll do the longer one. But yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
Did you feel humbled by the other runners?
It's not the most competitive race, the one that I did. But like seeing the longer stuff and what people were doing, I was like, okay, like this is like serious. And obviously it was my first experience with trail running and it's kind of actually made me fall in love with it. And I could have easily gone down the route of like, oh, let's shave off 5 minutes a year on my marathon time, which I went back and did a faster one in Amsterdam straight after UTMB, like 4 weeks later. But I could have easily kept going that way. But I was actually like, no, let me find something that's a little bit more rewarding, which is what I kind of got out of that race and just enjoyed the whole experience, which is why I wanted to do the Ultra X one in Tanzania.
Yeah, do you know, it's so interesting because you raised the point there about naivety. I think that's such a gift sometimes with what we do because I think too often we can listen to the advice that we're giving, and don't get me wrong, there are people out there that know what they're talking about and they do have your best interest, but then sometimes I feel like it can stunt your growth because I think even with the wrong decision, you're still going to learn from that. I think being naive enough to start something like UTMB is a great thing, but at the same time, there are definitely going to be terrains, distances, in particular races where it could really backfire on you to your detriment.
Yeah.
And something like a UTMB is definitely something you don't want to play with because you are definitely going to get burnt. I mean, Lewis, a mutual friend of ours,
I did a training run with him just before we went. Yeah.
He's a phenomenal athlete, and he's exposed himself to every single Ultra X race there is out there. Some of the harshest terrains and weather conditions you could really subject yourself to. And to do that in a single year is remarkable. He did the major race, the 170K, and it took him over 40 hours.
Yeah.
Now, when you think about the abundance of knowledge and experience, the wealth of experience that he has, and for him to complete that in over 40 hours, I mean, it really puts things into perspective when you look at the winner of that, Vincent. He was a non-sponsored athlete this year and he completed it in just over 19 hours.
Mad, yeah.
But he did that with 18 minutes rest.
Yeah, mad. Yeah, because people like sleeping and stuff a little bit for that kind of distance.
None. Zero sleep, which is just remarkable.
A few people, some of the bigger ones pulled out from names that... Yeah.
Jim. Jim Walmsley, the winner from last year,
Mm.
world record holder. He holds the current world record, pulled out.
But it was hot as well, I think. So
The humidity was a major. So
Yeah.
with Jim, it was an injury.
Yeah.
So I actually went out with Hoka about a month prior to the race, and there was a few words said that he tweaked his knee,
Okay.
but it came out that nothing was serious. So that's what everyone was led to believe. And he went back to training, things were good. And then unfortunately, I think that race just exposed it pretty imminently. He looked good though until then. You know, I was at most of those stations leading up to that, and he looked incredibly strong. And the one thing that really impressed me about him was how composed he was. Whenever he got to the aid stations, you could really tell, even with the elites, sometimes the lack of experience, how quickly they were rushing that process, thinking that they could just keep gaining and gaining and gaining.
Yeah.
With him, I'm literally watching him allow 12 runners just fly past him.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't even like an inkling of like urgency. He was super chilled.
I wonder if like that there might be a mental thing for him as well. Because I've had this conversation. I've been doing stuff for St. Mary's Uni, and we did a sports therapy session and talking about like your motivations to do things, why you do things, but also like how you get yourself through them mentally. And like one of the things that I do, and I'm very competitive with myself and other people. And a lot of people might think like comparing yourself to other people and competing isn't a good thing. But if you use it to your advantage, it is. So I remember on the day when I was really struggling and I was a lot further back than I was any other day. And there was people I'd seen that I hadn't seen the rest of the race. And I was like, my knee was killing. And I was like, as soon as I got back to flat so I could run again, I was using them as markers to tick off to keep me running. So instead of like just aiming at 40K to get to the end of the day on top of this 20K I've just done up and down, I was like, right, if I pick them off, pick that one off, pick that one. And I was using it as motivation. So maybe in his head, he's like, I'll let people get past me because it gives me a little bit of a drive to start taking some.
Yeah, I think it's being super
Skulls or whatever
mindful
you call
though about the impact these decisions make on you, right? Because in some instances, you know, those breaks in between checkpoints could be 20K, it could be 40, it could be 60K. So if you're not fueling up appropriately,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
although you might be gaining a couple spaces, without that appropriate
It will
fuel,
catch up,
it's
yeah.
going to catch up with
Yeah.
you. And that actually happened to a couple of the elites actually on the race where unfortunately team members were unable to hit the checkpoint at the appropriate time. They were unable then to be fueled. There's just no way. That course is so unforgiving. There's no chance you're going to make it to the next one. And they ended up pulling out. Tom Evans, one of our greatest ultra
I've seen
athletes
that,
we
yeah.
have in this country. You know, he was
Blanchard as well, didn't pulled out, yeah.
pulled out. And again, that was humidity. Tom, I think it was just, you know, just cooked basically. But, you know, what I love about him, I actually spoke to him out there. He's just motivated. You know, people look at that and go, God, how do you have the motivation to go back and subject yourself to that race time and time again? For him, he's like, until I win that thing, I'm just not stopping.
Yeah.
And you get that.
Yeah.
You know, we find our weird sadistic motivations in different ways.
Yeah.
Do you find that was kind of like a strong foundation for you? Because I guess when you go into any other competition, you know, like when you set yourself up with UltraX and you did Tanzania, can you look back at that particular experience and have those comparisons?
I got injured around that UTMB and Amsterdam race. I went into Amsterdam like in bits. Like I had hamstring tendonitis, I had a bone stress in my shin that wasn't a fracture, luckily, but I had an MRI. They were like, afterwards, they were like, yeah, you need to like have some time off. And when I was running, because I was like taped up and stuff, I thought I could just get through it. And then I like pulled my left calf. So I was like in a bad way at the end of Amsterdam. Did it in 3:03. So I just missed for 3 hours. So I need to go back and do 3 hours at some point. But going into Tanzania, so like I come back from Amsterdam, I booked Tanzania before I kind of got checked and like decided to take some time off. And I had a High Rocks like 3 weeks after after UTMB that I'd booked, and I was meant to do a full marathon in Dublin, and I ended up pulling out of them two because of the injury. But I had 2 months off, started running in December, and then I had to do 220 in Tanzania in March. So I'd only given myself like 3 months to train for it from scratch again, basically. Like obviously build up a bit quicker than obviously before, but I went up to like 40K week leading into it, which is not ideal. So I know I'm very motivated to do things when, even if it looks like it's not going to go completely to plan or my way, I'm always trying to push further.
The respect I have for you with every race that you do is just how disciplined you actually are. You know, watching you from the gym and just, there's just no stone unturned with you. And I really rate that, you know, even
except for kilometers.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, I should do a bit more, but everything else is like to the T. Yeah.
It's just exactly, but like, you know, just when it comes to things like the weather conditions, you know, the humidity, it's like, how can you try replicate that as best as you can in London? Because these are the things that either individuals may neglect or maybe not even necessarily see as an advantage, but it really is. And I really admire that about you, because I think I've had this conversation before with a number of my guests where, you know, I feel like we're going through a period of time now where we need to be really mindful about how often we subject ourselves to things. You know, most people would spend their primary time focusing on that marathon.
Yeah.
Whereas now, in a single year, you could have somebody like yourself doing a fast marathon, a 50K ultra, a 250K ultra. You might dabble with a boxing fight and then go into high rocks to finish off the year.
Yeah, qualified for world champs in high rocks.
You know, it's pretty exceptional. But the reality is, I think with the average person's lifestyle, how sustainable actually is that going to be? So that's what I mean by your dedication to each thing that you do. Although maybe the period of time from event to event is really condensed, I think you are so methodical with each one.
I try to like plan it out as best as I can. But at the same time, it's like the opportunities and stuff, and it comes with kind of the job. So like, if I get like a mad opportunity come up, and it's like really I can't afford to like say no, or I don't want to say no really. So then it's like working out, okay, how can I fit it in? How can I do it? And then just trying to time things right. And obviously, coming back from Tanzania, then going and doing Hackney Half and a High Rocks wasn't ideal for training wise. It's not going to be 100%, but I know if I do everything I can in whatever time I have, then it can be as close as possible to 100%, which is better than 90% is better than 80%. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it. I just always think, what if I didn't try to do that? What if I didn't put all of it in, which is another reason why like I've gone sober and it's been nearly 2 years, and why I'm planning Ibiza and the 250K, which I don't know if we've actually spoke about until now.
We will get into that.
Yeah.
Because that's exciting, but I think it's a build up, right? You kind of needed, I feel, all of those races to get to that point.
Yeah, confidence and everything, yeah.
Exactly,
100%.
because like I said, you have that mental and physical comparison to other things that you've been exposed to. You know, I've touched on this before with the 76 last year. Even though we were in a camper and it was absolutely freezing, it was minus temperatures outside, it was even colder in the camper. For me, I would always reflect on Sri Lanka with Ultra X, where I'm in a tent. It's 100% humidity. I'm sharing it with 5 other people, 2 of which are snoring. I mean, you are literally laid there in a pair of boxers on a inflatable mattress, and it was hell. Yeah. So for me, I was like, I might be freezing in this van, but I've got blankets and I'm on my own, and it's a double mattress.
Yeah.
So, you know, when it comes to Ibiza, you know, very, very soon, you've got your Tanzanias, you've got your UTMBs, you've got your London marathons that you can look back on and go, okay, right, this scenario I've been through before, or this is a shit scenario, but you know what? When I reflect, I'd rather have this one right now than that one in the past.
Yeah, it is. I do like compare that and stuff in like, it's a little bit further distance, but over 48 hours in one go. So there's different challenges. Like I haven't ran through the night. So it's like, how will that affect me? And I know I don't do very well on bad sleep, but at the same time, Tanzania, sleeping in a tent, like you said, feet were throbbing. I wasn't sleeping well anyway. So really, I'm not getting that recovery that I'd want to. So it's going to be interesting. And I've prepared a lot better for this one. I think I've just done 3 weeks in a row of at least 60K of actual running. Elevation went up each week from 400 to 600 to 800, 6 hours plus every week. And the last week of it was all in south of Italy. So I'd done a heat camp, like literally went out on a holiday to train. And I've got like some heat sessions running in a sauna leading up to it. And I'm in the sauna every day anyway, which I did for Tanzania. And there's loads of different variables that as long as I can prepare for it as best as possible, then I can go into it confident in my ability to just stick with it and get through it.
What would you say has been the best investment you've made since coming into this sport?
I think it's all of the small things is the biggest take home, actually. That's the best investment is all the little small things. because they build up to this big whole package that gets you like through whatever.
This week's episode is sponsored by Runner. Runner is a personalized running coaching app helping runners of all abilities train for any goal. From a first 5K to a marathon, even an ultra marathon. When the time is right for you, your plan can be created within a minute and ready to go. With each plan, Runner provides all the help a runner requires, including strength and conditioning, and you can also reach out to the team at any time via the support tab inside the app. For a 2-week free trial on any personalized running plan, use the code PHOENIX. No matter your goal, Runner is there to help you achieve it.
From a psychological point, I'm fascinated to know, like, what is it that you get from this? What made you want to transition into running?
So like for me, I don't really have like a solid reason why I do everything. And obviously I've got a story, because we've all got a story, and that's why Ibiza means quite a lot to me with the sobriety. And I have gone through a phase of like alcohol and drugs that, like, obviously I wouldn't change, but wasn't ideal. And it's not like it wasn't traumatic for me, but it was a difficult time. And if I was still doing that, I wouldn't be doing anything I'm doing now. So I haven't got a reason why, and I've got like things that I can tap into, and I've got motivations, and I think it's almost just like compounding things that's led me to get to where I am, because there isn't like there's like sparks in things that have like grew the fire, but there's no like solid reason. But I think that's important, because you don't always need something to rely on to get you through something.
I've spoken about this before with addiction, and actually the asset that has, I guess, when people then transition into these sports.
Yeah.
You know, is there a greater resilience, I guess, to what they're exposed to, right? Because of the harsh reality of what they've probably been through for so many years prior to that.
We'll see in Ibiza if I cope with the no sleep, because I've done plenty of Ibizas with no sleep. That's the whole reason why. Like, I used to go there and do like 5 days of just no sleep and just ruining myself and hating it afterwards and feeling just guilty and like shit, really. Which is why I want to go back and do this, because it's almost like a nail in the coffin to like the old me in that past life. And it's just a bit of a like, fuck you. Do you know what I mean?
But if you were to, for those that don't know you, if you were to do like a comparison right now of like Kori of the past and Kori of the present, what are the fundamental differences?
I was a little bit reckless and not very like methodical with the way that I live in thinking about the future and stuff like that, which maybe comes with age a little bit. It's hard to like put a proper finger on it, but there's certainly things that have happened to me recently that maybe I wouldn't have been able to cope with in the last couple of years. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to cope with when I was like the way I was 3 years ago. And it's really interesting. Like, I've never really like said this before, but I've come up with this like theory about mental health and like physical health. And you know, have you ever played like Call of Duty, like Warzone?
I'm the when it comes to gaming, man. I'm the last man.
Well, so basically you used to have like your health, and then you have this shield, right? And you can top your shield up. So I always think about your physical health and your mental health is a bit like you've got your health and then you've got your shield. And when I was drinking and getting on it, doing all that stuff like every weekend, I didn't have like a shield. But when you're like looking after yourself, doing these things, like even just going to the gym and eating well, all of this stuff tops up your like mental shield, and it keeps you a bit resilient. And it means when things prop up that really stress you out, because stress can affect your physical health as well. When all this stuff comes and you can't deal with it because you're using like the substances to lean on to then cope with, and then if you take them away, then you've got to face it head on. And I think I did that for a period of time. I tried to go sober for like probably over a year, and it was almost like I had to start forcing myself to actually deal with stuff. And then now, like some of the stuff that's happened in the last couple of years with money and different things, like could have went very badly compared to how it did, because I wouldn't have had the facility to deal with it all.
Do you think your change of environment as well?
So change of environment was something I did to actually to get out of it, 100%. I spoke about this before and stuff, but I think like when I finally decided to go like sober the second time, because I did it before, it was like I needed to move out from where I was living with people who were still partying and having after parties and stuff, and I'd be getting up to go for a run, and like it's just not it's so conflicting. And I think I was just quite conflicted in my head as well. So yeah, definitely change your environment. It doesn't have to be forever, but I think it's really important to do that, to break the habit. And then once it is broken, like you could probably go and see your friends, have a drink, and it wouldn't end up like it used to be.
No, I think it's good that you say that, because there are so many people that come to me and they'll kind of open up about, the ambitions that they have. And I think they feel like a minority within their circle, and a lot of people will always question why they want to do these sorts of things. And actually just by exposing yourself to a different mindset can just be so refreshing for people. And actually, like, sooner the better. I think it's so nice now that there are younger generations that we can kind of take inspiration from, where they maybe aren't necessarily fitting like the generic mold of what once was. For us, I guess that mindset of like, your youthful years are for being reckless and are for partying. Don't get me wrong, it's good to have fun, but at the same time, like, a lot of remarkable things can be achieved in that time. Like, why wait till you're in your 30s to take life a bit more seriously?
Yeah. If you like build in your 20s and build in your 30s, like, you're going to be so much further ahead than people that are just starting when they get to 30.
There's two lads from a university that I met on the last challenge, and a bit like yourself, they've kind of gone from not running to really throwing themselves at the deep end, and they've just announced that they're going to be running John O'Groats to Land's End, and the ambition is to run 100 kilometers a day. And like, I have so much admiration and respect for those boys, because they're just making something of themselves. It's very rare, I would say, at university level that you would ordinarily have students like that subjecting themselves to it, because
other than athletes that are like doing education just on the side,
and they weren't, and you can tell they're just super passionate about their why behind it, and I really respect that. I think it's amazing.
I think, like, as a generation and that, they're just doing like alcohol and things is a lot less now, and they are going out a lot less, and they're getting up and going hiking on the weekends and seeing, like, actually like having proper connections with people and like going around each other's houses for like dinners and stuff, rather than just going to a bar and getting pissed. Like, it's quite a big thing now, and especially in the city as well. It's a bit of a transit. There's a bit of a gap between like the generation and then like the financy city working generation. Do you know what I mean? Because even a lot of the people my sort of age or a bit younger that are in finance are all doing marathons and stuff like that, which are like Ironmans and things, which used to be for like 40-year-olds that were kind of a bit bored. Do you know what I mean? Which is amazing. I think it's class. And like you said about Chamonix and UTMB, this year looked like no one really spoke about it the year I did it. Like, it wasn't like a big thing socially, unless you were in like the running space. But now it's like anyone that's like running a little bit knows about it, and all the influencers are there, and which is cool. Like, it's making it bigger and better for everyone.
Do you know what I think is crazy is things that so many people look at now as sometimes maybe a luxury or a new lease of life, when in reality, all we're doing is reconnecting with what we've done for thousands of years. Like you said there, people giving up drinking and going out, and then probably going hiking or camping with their friends. I went on a trip recently with 4 complete strangers, 4 of the men, to Exmoor, and it was hiking by the coast, sat round a campfire. One of the guys who was a chef cooked us the meal, where we could just be quite vulnerable and open up to one another. And it was just the most empowering and special experience, when in reality, that's what we did every single day. That was just normality. But to us, it was like, wow, this is a really unique experience. It feels like society has kind of taken us so far away from our norm that we don't really know what the norm is anymore. But I feel like in time, we're reverting back to our original roots, which I think is a positive. And I think that's why I absolutely love trail running more than anything, more so than marathon running, just because I think it does re-expose us to those natural elements.
I said this about the multi-day, doing like the multi-day races, because when you're in like a place with 40 other people doing exactly the same thing, camping, no phones, no internet, like especially in Africa, like I didn't have internet or anything to use. And it was just like going back to like real life. And it was mad because people talk about it like, oh, I don't want to go back to real life, saying they don't want to leave there to go back to like work. And it's like, no, that's actually like the real world. We're in like this new world that isn't how we were like genetically made to live.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. Like you just feel so much better, even if you're like pushing yourself to like an absolute limit and stressed it's like you just feel amazing at the same time.
Do you feel more fulfilled doing marathon running, or do you feel more fulfilled doing ultra and trail run?
100% the ultra and trail running, even more so in the even longer stuff. But I think that's more to do with like it being a path least followed. Like everyone's running a marathon now, so it almost takes out the like the kudos you're giving yourself, because like obviously it's an amazing feat and it is a really hard challenge for a lot of people. But if you can do it and then tick it off and then do something bigger and then tick it off and do something bigger, it almost becomes like a bit normal. Like I could go run a marathon tomorrow if you said, do you want to go run a marathon? And it wouldn't be that hard to do it. It would be difficult, but not like I couldn't do it. So when you're doing like 220k ultra marathons and stuff, like you get so much more out of that.
I don't know. There's something so much more fulfilling about those ultra distances. I personally don't get fulfillment from marathon running.
Yeah.
I don't see the joy in it whatsoever. I think it's definitely a test physically and mentally, but it kind of defeats the purpose of connection. You can connect, I guess, with people when it comes to maybe certain training runs, but you know, I guess the pace in which you're running at kind of subsides that a little bit. Whereas with the trail running, I feel like it's a far more social sport, and I think for me that's where I get my kick from.
Yeah, it is. Like I do find marathons are getting a bit more social. Like when we did Hackney, like quite a few of us did it. We met up before, we didn't run it together, all running at different paces or whatever, and then we finished and met up afterwards and stuff. And like there is that aspect of it. And the training process itself, like to run really fast, it is really hard to train like that. And the hardest part is getting there without getting injured and being able to perform properly on the day, I think. But like that whole process, like you do get a lot out of that. But I know what you mean. And like, it is a lot more fulfilling doing the longer stuff and the trail stuff. And you do get more out of it. And I feel like you just connect a little bit more to nature and to yourself, and you have time to think about things. When you're running like really, really fast, just for 3 hours or whatever, you're just almost like thinking about how to keep going. Whereas I found like it's a bit of a journey with the ultra stuff, because you do think that at points, but also there's points where you're just like not even thinking and just flowing, or like chatting to people, or like running with someone. And do you know what I mean? And I've like had experiences where I did Riyadh Marathon and I wasn't trying to run it fast. It was like a PR thing, and I met someone on the way around, and he was like, I'm going for a PB, it's like 3:40 for me, blah blah. I was like, I'll pace you for it. And it wasn't like too difficult for me to do, and that was quite nice because we was chatting most of the way. And like you do get that a little bit, but I know what you mean.
I agree. Again, I think that's what the point you've made there is so valid, because I think before, when people used to get into running, the sole focus was you just associate it with time. And actually they're missing out the whole thing, which is the experience. How nice is it that you can travel the world and do different races and not your primary focus be the time? Take in the atmosphere.
It depends
culture,
on the
environment. 100%. Like if you want to be competitive, then 100% that's your sole focus.
Locked
but
in and...
you know, that for me is a frustration when you say to someone like, what was your favorite bit about that race?
You said it to me about Hackney, and I was like, I didn't enjoy a second of it.
Like
but I've got a nice time to tell people about when I do a half marathon. Like I did a quite hard half marathon, like 1:24. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's all it is. It's a time, which is why I'm not like, why I haven't done the 3 hour, like broke the 3 hour straight after the back of the last one, because I was like, I want to try something different. I don't want to just keep doing the same thing over and over again, trying to knock off like a couple of minutes every year. Like, I don't think that would do anything for me.
I remember a friend of mine, Leon, who ran, I think maybe the 10th fastest time doing John O'Groats to Land's End. And, you know, he was asked that question, like, what was your favorite bit? And he was like, not one moment of that did I enjoy. And I think, God, man,
I don't think I'd enjoy doing
to run 850 to 900 miles and not have a single memory from that. I think is such a shame, because you've sacrificed so much of your life for that moment to not really take anything away from it. Yeah. Yes, you can say you're the 10th fastest person, but you know, he deserved more than that. Like, you know, he should have an absolute album of moments from that he could cherish. And I don't know, I feel like, again, time becomes the primary thing, but I think people are going to be more captivated by the stories that you can tell them than that momentary, I ran it in this time.
Yeah.
The majority of your runs that you've done have been organized events. you've now finally decided to step out of that, and you have now planned and organized your next challenge, right? Which you've kind of brought up a few times, which is Ibiza.
Yeah.
Now, can you give everyone that's listening more of an insight into the why behind Ibiza, what the ambition is going to be, and I guess the preparation that's gone into that? Because like you said, it's September now. The weather there is still going to be considerably hotter than what we're used to here.
Yeah. Yeah, weirdly, I'm not like madly worried about the weather, but yeah, we'll come on to it. But yeah, it's 250k at least, maybe slightly more, depending on the route. Been trying to like organize that with someone on the ground there that does this walk around it, but the conversation is not going well, so it might just be planning it myself. But yeah, 250k, about 7,000 meter elevation. Gonna try do it in one go. So literally start one place clockwise, go all the way around. It's gonna be a new challenge. Obviously, yeah, like you said, it's gonna be like 30 degrees, like 60, 70% humidity, which I've been doing a lot of anyway. And I feel quite comfortable doing it now, which is quite nice. But yeah, the distance, all of it is gonna be tough. And even just planning it has been a bit of a journey, and raising the funds, because it's gonna cost quite a bit of money. It's bad news every now and then, and trying to work that out still. But yeah, it's next Monday, so it's happening. And yeah, we've got a really cool team coming out, filming it all. Gonna do like a long documentary style video around it, with some of the stuff leading up to it, and the training, and then some interview stuff, and then the actual run itself and how it goes. But yeah, the reason why I'm doing it as well is it's been 2 years since I went to Ibiza last and partied, which was actually 2 weeks before London Marathon. And I was going to go there for a friend's birthday and say, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing any drugs, and I'm just going to be there for like 4 days, come back, do the London Marathon, because I'd done this whole training process and I'd been so dedicated to it. And I went and I just fucked it up, just did like 5 days, like ended up extending slightly. But at the same time, met my missus, which is a big change in my life and like a really important part of my life. So it's also our anniversary, like at the end of the run. So the run's the sober anniversary and then our anniversary. So it's got a lot of meaning, and it's almost just like I said, like just finalizing that part of my life and securing how I think about myself in this new part. But yeah, it's gonna be really cool.
What would you say are your biggest concerns going into this challenge?
So we had a bit of a big sponsor to kind of cover a lot of it, and now that's kind of just literally pulled out. And
just
a lot
recently.
of people, yeah, this morning. And a lot of people are reluctant to kind of buy into things until they see it happen. And I know if I go do it and get it off the ground, which is basically what's going to happen, I'm going to just self-fund it, which is almost just another part of the story, right? It's like, it's not gone to plan. It's a bit stressful. If I can still go and do it without a sponsor, obviously Under Armour are sponsoring me in general at the moment, and I've been working with them for like the best part of this year, and it's going really well. We're trying to see if they can help cover stuff on top of that, because it's hard to get things outside of contracts and stuff. So hopefully by the time this comes out, I'll be starting, right? I think we said. So hopefully that's sorted by then. But yeah, it's getting it done myself will be even more of a big achievement, to say, look what I've done off my own back, the whole thing. No sponsors. That would be even better. So
what you're going through is honestly, it's I've been doing this for 6 years, and I've gone into sort of Sports Direct the night before a challenge to buy my sports kit. Yeah. I've had brands pull out a week before or cut their sponsorship by 50%.
Yeah.
When you're trying to fund a helicopter.
Yeah,
that's a stress.
That, yeah.
So when you're stepping foot on that start line and psychologically you're going, I've got to fund this thing somehow.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's so interesting with brands where it's like, I need you to prove to me that you can finish it for me to sponsor you.
Yeah. So, or even just like the concept, like they want to see it happen. But then it's like the same, I had the same conversation with Tanzania. I was, obviously the race, I did it for Ultra X, so that made it a little bit easier. But I was the same. I managed to get, because I work with Sports Direct now and Under Armour. Sports Direct, this is just before I'd started working with them both, was like, they said, no, but we can give you some kit. So they sent me some kit like the week before, which they happened to send me. I chose Under Armour, which actually kind of led to how I ended up, because I'd worked with them previously. And then that's how I ended up getting the year kind of deal with them, which is crazy. So I kind of had to just do it. And I just ended up having all this stuff to pay for, flights. I ended up missing my flight home, so that cost me even more money. Like loads of different things went into it that was adding extra pressure on, not just like performing, but actually getting there and doing it. And it is mad, but like you said, it's part of it and it's happened to you. And
in terms of your team, so this is kind of what I'm interested to know is like, how many team members will you have? What would their primary roles be? And I guess what is the strategy to run 250 kilometers, I guess, in the space of 48 hours?
Yeah.
Because like you said, are you actually going to allow yourself even like a minute nap or two? Or
Yeah.
are you, you will. Okay.
There'll be, majority of it's my mates. My friend Harry, who used to film a lot of Represent stuff, he's filming the whole doc, and we've got a second shooter. And then we've got my friend Maz, who done Ultra-X with me. He podiumed it, and he done MDS straight after. So he's quite a good runner. He's got experience in this kind of space. My other friend Adam done some work with like one of Ross Edgley's last challenges. So he's got some experience in that sort of aspect as well. And then the other guys are just my friends coming out to run with me, doing sections. Like hopefully I don't have to run too much on my own. And then it's like, I don't really want to run with a pack. So it's like, where can the cars get to? So we've got to plan the route specifically with how I'm going to break it down. I've done a lot of work on nutrition. So I know my nutrition's to the T. I know what and when that is. And
what's going to be the focus nutritionally? Like what foods are you going to try and digest throughout?
So it's mainly going to be like fast carbs, but so the ideal is about 90 grams per hour in the longer stuff. And you want to be like 1 to 8, like dextrose to fructose, which is like the ideal amount of like absorption rate and stuff. So I've got it planned to be like basically 2 gels and a full bar and a drink mix every 2 hours. And I've been practicing with my gut and fueling and stuff leading up to it, which is one of the stones that I haven't left unturned. Doing like the 4 or 5 hour runs in like over fueling, carbing up the day before to like 800 grams of carbs. We've looked at everything. So I know all of that, as long as I can follow it and I can deal with it on the day and stuff, then all of that's sweet. And
you're not going to have any solids like mashed potatoes?
I'll have
like
yeah, so that's just the majority, but then...
So I was going to say, your palate,
yeah,
just eating having any gels and stuff,
was,
that's going to... 2 days of that is pretty intense.
Yeah, Tanzania, like the 5th day, I was a little bit ropey, but there'll be actual like meals and stuff. So this is like just the majority of it while I'm running. I want to try do as much of the initial 50 or so K quite quickly and just get as much out as possible, which is also due to like the way that I run. You've seen me like on my tiptoes. I actually feel a bit more efficient running slightly faster. And obviously I can't sustain that for however long. But if I did the whole race at a slow pace and then slow down even more, I know that I'm going to have all this contact time and like negative stuff happening. I'll probably fall apart a bit earlier. So if I can change the way I run a little bit, you're almost changing the impacts and stuff. So it might work out, might not. But
and how are you going to mark like your checkpoints out? Are you going to vary the distances, or is it just the vehicle and support crew will just
it's
be
going to
with
be
you
like
throughout?
It's going to be wherever the car can be. We've got 2 cars that will work, but there'll be points where it will have to meet, and we'll have like 10 to 20k sections. Initially, probably longer in distance, and then as we get a bit further around, it will be more like on the hour, and we'll try work out how that's going to be, but we'll try to do that beforehand. But we've got a couple of days there before that we're going to go out and kind of look at a map and do this all properly after I've done it myself. But I've got it like 60% there.
And what tools are you going to use to stimulate yourself at night?
Caffeine.
Just caffeine, music, podcast, people.
Do you know what I did? I did the whole of Tanzania with no music. Didn't have any headphones. Did the whole of Ultra-X, 35 hours.
You just raw dogged Tanzania.
Yeah, literally raw dogged it. Partly because I think it was 4 days in, I actually brung headphones with me and they didn't work for some reason. So I was like, well, that's that out of the question. But it was only the 4th day that I kind of even thought I'd get to that point. So there'll be a time when I reckon I can call upon it, because I haven't trained in headphones for most of the time. But I did like one of my hotter runs last week. I did 2 runs back to back in Italy. So I did like 4 hours, 30k one day, and then did another 30-ish in like just over 3 hours the second day. And on the second day, even though I felt great, I actually took my headphones with me because I was listening to something in the morning and I hadn't finished it. So I was like, I'll take them with me and finish it. And then I just put music on. And I actually felt like I could run a little bit faster quite comfortably. So, and I've always ran the faster stuff with headphones. So maybe I will use that as a tool to give me a bit of a boost at some point.
I think you're going to have to, with the 250, because it is literally, it's so condensed within those 2 days, I guess you are going to have to be so careful not to overcook it in that initial stages, because, you know, hypothetically, if nutrition or hydration isn't quite on point, or the heat is slightly hotter than what you expected, you know, that could be a tough slog in those latter stages. But that's where the team comes in, you know, with you know, their combined knowledge to help you through those points.
And I think like where I say I want to go faster in the beginning, we're going to start quite early, try avoid as much heat, get around to like the west side by the time the sun comes up, and then I can slow down a little bit. And then at the hotter points of the day, that's when I'm getting into the stage where I can start thinking about sitting down and eating, having a bit more time off my feet, cooling down properly, and then going again. So yeah, it's kind of like there's a bit of a method to the madness, but it's experience at the end of the day, and I haven't got experience in a few things, so it's an unknown, which I said about in the announcement for it. It's the unknown's scary, but it's also what actually is getting me to the point of wanting to do it and enjoying it, because I want to know what's on the other side of it, and I want to know what I can do. And then this is going to lead on to something else, right? Like naturally, like what you've done with like the 76.
It's exciting, bud. You know, this is kind of like your first major independent experience, you know, where you know, the fact that you're taking on the logistics really yourself, it's in itself is like, that's an added stress. And that's, you know, fair play to you, because, you know, a lot of people may turn to somebody for something like that. And I think, you know, even like with your team, you know, it's who's going to take top spot, I guess, to try and manage the team, because someone will have to take that role just to try and make that ship run as smoothly as possible.
We're going to work that out. I've got like
rock, paper, scissors,
an idea. Yeah, I've got an idea, and it's almost just like seeing what people's like strengths are and stuff. But it's like the person with maybe the most experience actually would be the most trained to run with me for quite a long time. So he'd probably be better as a pacer than leading, which is like almost like annoying, because do you know what I mean? He could do both. But like Harry, who's filming, it's really good with the production side. So I don't really have to worry about any of that in a sense. So that takes a lot of pressure off. And then it's like, who's just going to basically be in charge of what, and yeah, just see how people feel, and no pressure on anyone else. And it's like, it's on me really at the end of the day. They're all doing me a favor. So
when you look at that finish line, I mean, I don't know if you've thought or fantasized about that moment when you cross it. If you have, what is it that you're hoping to feel?
It's hard, because I want to relate it to Tanzania, and the finish line for Tanzania was a bit of an anticlimax, but for a good reason, because the day before, so it was set up like 30, 40, 50, 60, 50. And the 50 in the middle was up Kilimanjaro. So it was a pretty hard day. And then we had the 60K day, which was my birthday. We started at 2 a.m. because it was such a long day. And I was in a bad way by then. Like my knee had fallen apart like day 2. I was really struggling. So we started off with a climb, and I was okay on the climbs, but the downhills was really getting to me. And it was literally, I was looking at the gradient map on my watch, and it was like a bit of a climb down, a bit of a climb. Then it was just like 1,000 meters down within like 5K. And I was like, there was an aid station at the top. And I was just like, I didn't know if I could do it. And then it was a marathon after that, right? Flat, which I thought I probably could get through, but I'm going to struggle. And I remember I was like climbing this hill, and I was making all these excuses of why it would be okay to quit. I'd got injured. I wasn't trained enough. All these excuses in my head. And I was beating myself up because I felt like I'd quit already, even though I hadn't actually quit. I was checking out, and I was so disappointed in myself. So I was crying, getting up this hill, crying my eyes out, got to the top, sat down. All these people were overtaking me, like I said earlier. And I was like, not even seen this person for the other 2 days. Like the first day I finished 10th and I was flying. And then the second day just fell apart, which obviously is natural. I hadn't done multi-day like that. And yeah, I was just like, right, just pick myself up, right? Let's just fucking get my head down. I'm going to do it. So I started, I almost turned back like 5 minutes in, and I didn't. I got through it. I started running. I started picking people off. I felt really accomplished. The end of that day was such an achievement for myself, because I'd beat myself in that mental dialogue I had. And finishing that day was 10 times better than finishing the last day. Because the last day I was running. I felt fine. I did the last 50K and like faster than the third 50K. And I was running with someone and I felt pretty good. I finished it and I was like, I could probably do tomorrow if I had to. And it was just, such a win that Thursday. So maybe there'll be like moments in this that are similar to that day. And then the end product will be getting over that. So it will feel the same. So I'm hoping I know it's going to be hard. I know there's going to be times when I'm going to break down, and there's probably like, I've already mentally thought about distances that I haven't done before, like 100K, I've never done 100 miles. I'm going to tick both of them off at the same time. And when I get to them distances as a mental milestone, I know it's going to be difficult because I'm going to know how far I've got and how hard it's been. So there will be times when I'm gonna really struggle, and I think winning myself again is going to be the biggest take home.
When you look back at your former self and you look at the environment you were surrounded by, would you say, firstly, were you surrounded by sort of like a lot of like money and materialism? And I guess there's a lot of people with maybe a false sense of confidence or ego, right? Do you find that when you've exposed yourself to these new elements with the ultra side of things, where you kind of strip all the bullshit and facade away, that's kind of the truest version of yourself? Like, do you think that's when you are your most confident?
Yeah, I don't know, like, because I'm almost comparing everything for like age and also like how I was in different things. So it's such a big gap to compare myself, but I'm so much more confident in myself and my ability now than I was back when like I first started to make quite a bit of money and I got the Instagram following and all the attention, like, and I was in this fake space, like you said. I wasn't fulfilled and I almost didn't feel like I belonged there, but I always wanted that. That's really the weird thing about it, is I was always chasing that. And obviously back when I grew up, I didn't really have much. And then I had an okay job, and then I ended up going on to like the TV shows and then moving to London and being in this new environment. I didn't really feel like I ever fitted into it. But most people would probably look at me and think I was like perfect for it, which is strange. But like what I've found now, it's just like, like I'm not chasing this hedonic treadmill. I used to always like think about my self-worth and my value about how much money I was making and what watch I had and what car I had. And I was always trying to level everything up. And I've got to the point where I'm like very comfortable with what I have. And I know I have a lot and I'm very grateful for that. But I could always be chasing more and more and more. And that's not what I'm looking for. It's like, it's completely different now.
Would you say you found a place where you belong?
I still have the same kind of thoughts now, not imposter syndrome at all, because I know in myself where I kind of belong and what I want to do. But I feel like as I've come into the running space, I still don't feel like I belong. Like it's a bit of a strange feeling. But there's like, I feel like I've still not, maybe I haven't done enough, or maybe it's because it's still quite new, but I do feel like a bit of like friction coming into it.
I don't know if my opinion means much to you, bud, but like in all honesty, I think when it comes to this sport, there's a lot of people who are very good at, I guess the facade of being this inspiration, when in reality you get an insight into their day to day and they're not doing what they preach. I am subjected to you pretty much on a daily basis within that gym, and I see the dedication that you put into everything that you focus on, and you very much do belong. And I think you have been so instrumental in the growth of this sport. I mean, when you accumulate multiple individuals, including yourself, I think that's why it's having such a profound impact on so many people around. And you're still very much at the beginning of this journey. And I think there's going to be such an education for you when it comes to this challenge. There's going to be a lot of mistakes made, a lot of learnings from it, and a huge amount of success that I think will come with it too. Ultimately right now, as you said, you've got a lot of brands who are asking you to prove your worth. And that's where you just you do.
Yeah. You've
got two choices. You either come out of this with an ego and go, I look at my large following, I've been on TV, I've got a massive community building, and yet why am I not being sponsored by these individuals? You can go, well, I feel passionate about this, when in reality, not everyone's mutually going to, share the same passion for the things that you want to do. So therefore you have to share that passion with them. You have to entice them to want to be invested into those future projects, whatever they may be. And, you know, you've touched on it before. It's not about going bigger and better each and every time. I think it's having that consistency of what it is that you're trying to achieve with each one. You don't go do 250 kilometers over 2 days and then go, right, well, the next thing is 300 kilometers in 24 hours, you know? And I think you have that awareness too, which is great, because ultimately you want to have a sustainable journey in this sport. And, you know, I think that's where some mistakes for certain individuals probably is being made. Mate, it's been absolutely mega following your journey. And, you know, Ibiza, I think, is going to be amazing. I think considering the season still is kicking off there, I think that's probably going to be one of the more unique parts of the experience, is the fact that you and Timmy from Blackburn's probably coming back from DC10.
Yeah, do you know what's really funny? Like, thank you as well for what you just said. It's really nice here. But yeah, like we're starting filming like in Bossa 4 a.m. ish on like a Monday morning. So whatever event's on now, I don't keep up with it. On a Sunday, Glitterbox still maybe. People would be coming out Glitterbox and we're two jeeped up, like film crew, like me, like running gear, like setting off with my poles or whatever. And then, oh, what the fuck is going on? And then even finishing back there like 2 days later. So yeah, it's gonna be a journey. And like you said about like not proving people wrong, but I definitely used stuff like that in my head when I was doing Tanzania with like, I've got a point to prove now because I've got to earn my worth. And it was like, I remember the last 3K of that 220, I was thinking about the people that hadn't doubted me with Tanzania, but knew my training kind of leading up to it wasn't ideal with injuries and stuff, and like probably doubted me. And I knew people were thinking like I was taking on too much, and probably thinking the same for this one. And I know like that last 3K, I was running like sub 5 minute kilometers because I was thinking about crossing the line, posting the photo on the internet when I finally get it of me saying I've done it. Like, do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's gonna be a journey.
Too many people, I think, in this day and age with the social media presence think that their following justifies the investment. Fucking absolutely not.
Yeah.
In this sport, you've seen the dedication that it takes to achieve what we do. Fucking put the time in and earn it. And eventually those brands will 100% invest in you, but also be the difference. Find what your niche is. What makes you stand out from the next person? Because if you've got, like you said, 100,000 people running a marathon, what makes you so special?
Yeah.
Why should you earn the investment from that particular sponsor? And so it's just about repetition. As long as they see that consistency, eventually your noise will be heard, and that investment will be made. You know, look at Imo. Imo just finished the 3 peaks, barely sponsored going into that.
Yeah.
The world record. Fastest female to run the 3 peaks, and she's not sponsored to the level that she should be at.
Yeah.
She fucking is now.
Yeah.
Because she's earned it.
Yeah. It's hard as well because like I've had this kind of conversation with, especially when I was like coming into the space more and I was trying to run, and it was almost like you're competing with like athletes for like certain things. And yeah, they have like this more authority in what they say and stuff, and people buying into it. But at the same time, like, is someone with like 10,000 followers worth the same to someone who's got 1 million followers? And obviously numbers don't mean everything, and you could have 1,000 people buying something or 1 million people looking at it and no one buying it. So like there is that comparison as well, but it's just hard, isn't it? And I think what I don't like is when, say like I train like an athlete, like professional athlete basically, when athletes will say, like who are specifically athletes will say like, I don't like influencers coming into space, taking the work, blah, blah. But I also don't like it when it's the other way around. I think like there's enough for everyone to go around. And if you're not getting something, it's not anyone's fault. You just got to do more. And that's kind of where I'm at. And it's more the fact that things have like said they're going to happen and haven't. That's annoyed me with this one. But at the same time, it is what it is. And you got to stay positive. And I could have easily just pulled the towel on it. And I'm not going to. I'm going to get it done however I have to get it done. So
knowing what you know now, the elation you'll feel when you step your foot on that start line, that's one of the hardest parts of the process, is actually just getting there.
That adrenaline dump will be mad. When I did my first fight, I remember I was like, blew up in like, I did like obviously one, but like I did the first minute round or whatever it was. I was fucked. It was a minute. Like, do you know what I mean? I ran like 190 heart rate at London Marathon for 3 hours, and like I was dead in a minute when I went in because of the adrenaline and that emotional aspect of it. So I know it's gonna be tough.
Oh man, it's gonna be special. Honestly, brother, thank you so much for coming on. Come next Monday. I mean, this episode will be coming out a day after you set off.
Okay.
Guys, if you have listened to this episode, please go out there, support him. Every message you send, I can't tell you how much it means to the person when they're doing something.
We're hopefully going to have the way that, because obviously it's only over a short period of time and we're doing the whole bigger, longer doc around it. I'm hopefully going to have someone doing 5 to 6 kind of posts, like before I start, morning of, when I get going, 6-hour update sort of thing. So yeah, there'll be something to follow along by the time this comes out. It'll be like into the second day, yeah. So hopefully, yeah.
That's it, my man. Run
See?
well.
Nice one.
We got you back.
Thank you for having me on, mate.
Love you,
Great.
brother.
Cheers, bro.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, you fatted biscuit, all I ask of you in return is that you push that subscribe button and leave a review. Unless it's a bad one, you can keep that, you sausage. Your support, though, makes such a difference to this podcast and enables it to grow and connect with even more people around the world.